Latitude 0, longitude 0. Speaking from the center of the world, Ghana. This is where we are. This is the center of Pan-Africanism, moving black people forward, uniting us on the same platform, telling the stories that concerns us. Boom! Zo TV talking points. Do not change the dial. Stay tuned.
Boom, 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 boom. Zo TV is alive. Zo TV is alive. Zo TV is back. Stay tuned. Do not change the dial. The frequency is Zo TV. Authentic stories coming your way from Ghana, from the motherland. You know, we are going into December, and very soon a lot of people will be coming to Ghana again because Ghana has become the destination for December, the big festival in Africa, in Ghana. December is the age for it. So most diasporans will be coming. But some people have done this journey long time ago, coming to Africa before the year of return and beyond the return. But these are some of the guys doing positive stuff in Africa because a lot of people come, they talk a lot, and they don't do things. And as I told you, I want to bring out diasporans living in Ghana but doing things. Positive stuff. Sowing some seed into our people. Creating jobs. Those are the people I'm looking for. So if you're out there and you think you are impacting Africa, might not only be in Ghana, but in Burkina or whatever it is, and you can access Zo TV and come onto our platform because you think you came to Africa with some positive vibe, please let's hear from you. We have in the house today, I'm not going to talk too much, but if you are talking about what we call sustainability, coming to Africa with a little bit of money, some tiny stuff, and you want to live here, you know, accommodation, like how to survive, we have an expert in the house. He has done it all, and we're going to have a chat with him to see how he made it in Africa and what he's doing in Africa. So stay tuned. Do not change the dial. My man.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the house of Zo TV.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. It really is.
Let's cheer to our,
Absolutely.
Let's cheer to the crown again. Okay?
Absolutely. It's a
palm
beautiful
wine in the house. Okay?
It's a beautiful day in Ghana, West Africa, and we've got chilled palm wine. You cannot go wrong with that.
Yeah, man.
So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me on your show.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Brandon Rogers, and I'm a designer and real estate developer based here in Ghana, West Africa. And my focus is sustainable development, rural development, and ultimately what we're striving to do is build communities in ways that we can all come together and do more together. And that's been my pursuit over the last 18 years in Ghana.
You've been living here for 18 years?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So when I met you, I think I've known you for 8 years now.
Yep. It was about 2016, 2017 or thereabout, I believe.
Yeah. So you had been living here for almost like 10 years before me meeting you. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I moved to Ghana in 2006.
2006.
Yep, and I didn't know I was going to be moving to Ghana. It started off as a visit. And then life in Ghana and so many things took over.
Yeah.
And, for me personally, I was always searching, for where I felt at home.
Okay.
And so growing up in Florida, I grew up born and raised in Orlando, Florida, right next to Disney World.
Okay.
And had an amazing childhood. And it was that childhood that really gave me the emphasis of my life that you're really supposed to pursue your dreams.
Okay.
And I understand that that's even a privilege because so many people were trying to survive.
Yeah.
And so that's what really led me to always be searching. And so once I finished college, and it was really at university that I had become influenced about African culture, Ghanaian culture, Dogon architecture. That's really where my entrance was.
Who introduced you to that? Because
well, I mean, to be honest, it was in school. FAMU, I went to Florida A&M, which is a HBCU, and we were in architecture history, and I had a professor, the late Professor Dozier, and we did a project, and we were talking about the Dogon. and we were talking about all their ancient secrets and their architecture and all of this stuff, and I was just blown away.
Hang on for 1 minute. If you are watching me and you are Ghanaian or a non-Ghanaian, African, anywhere, I'm very sure that maybe this is your first time of hearing the name Dogon, because it is not really deeply rooted in our history. So unless you've done some kind of history class, you wouldn't know what Dogon is. So Dogon is found in West Africa. It is a town in Mali. But I'll leave the rest to you to go and find out the Dogon people. Who are they? Those of you Africans that like to run away from the culture. Anytime we talk about culture and you want to run away from it, go Google Dogon and read about them and come to your comment section, write something positive or tell me what you think about Dogon. My man.
Yeah.
So you, at that time in college, how old were you at that time?
I mean, at the time I was about 22. 22. So I was still in college. We were at university. I studied architecture.
Okay.
I've known that I've wanted to build homes since I was a little kid. That's where I realized, we had a math fair school project, and I built a model home, and I was hooked. From that day, I just knew that I wanted to build houses, and that really was my focus, was houses, because I wanted places where we live. I wanted to create the environment where we live. That's where we spend the majority of time, where we grow our families, And ultimately now what I realized was that the home is a single model for a single family, but we've got to bring families together. If we're talking about nation building, we've got to really, really bring families together in a collective way to where we can do more and have a bigger collective impact.
Yeah.
And that is all in the community. I think here itself, the community is a lot more communal. Than where we're coming from the West. It's very much an individualistic mindset. So coming in, seeing things, and striving for more, these were all the aspects of life here that really, really enticed me. Yeah. And for me, I'm going forward. I'm not going back.
Let's go back again to Florida, Orlando.
Yeah.
So by the time you finish college, I guess you might be 22 or 23.
Yeah, absolutely.
How long did it take from that time before you moved to Ghana?
About a year, So I graduated college, and I went and worked in the field. I went and worked in the architecture firm. I started working in the office. I had my cubicle. It was 2000 and let's say 5. So in America, the real estate market was booming.
Okay.
This was before the economic crash of 2008. So everybody was getting finances. Projects were going up.
Okay.
We were getting paid double time to work overtime because there was just so much work.
Okay.
But what I was designing, it wasn't fulfilling. It was apartment homes out of wood and sheetrock.
Okay.
And it just wasn't fulfilling. The money was good.
Yes.
And that aspect I'm not going to complain about. And I did that for a while in Orlando. And I had an opportunity. I was supposed to travel to Ghana with a friend of mine from college after we graduated, but I ended up graduating early.
Okay.
And so he was still in school, so we couldn't make that trip.
Yeah.
So what happened was, I'm in the field working now. He graduated and he went on the trip.
All right.
So now he's telling me and sending back pictures and information, and I'm like, feeling like I messed out.
Okay.
But here I am in my office cubicle working, and he's doing what the plan was.
Yeah.
And I had to do some course.
So I would say that architecture design is what draw you to Africa.
Yes.
Were your parents okay when you started wanting to come to Africa with all these ideas? Imagine that maybe you took a loan or you spent a lot of money to go through college, and all of a sudden you want to go to Africa.
Yeah.
I guess there was a bit of a challenge with that.
Because it was, I had never traveled.
Yeah.
That was my first passport, my first stamp. I'd never been out the country.
So how did you deal that with your parents? Your parents agreed, your friends understood your mindset?
I was a young man. I did everything that society told me to do. Go to school, get good grades, get a scholarship, go to college, graduate. I did it all. So now, and I was even in the field working.
Yeah.
And so at what point, am I going to really look at my interests and my needs and fulfilling, my vision? And so that's where they've always been very supportive. So once I told them what I was doing, they fully supported it. Now, I don't think they understood the impact, and even I didn't. When I came, I didn't know I was going to be moving. I didn't know that I was going to be staying. I didn't know that my future was going to be here. I was going to marry here, have a family here, and live here for so long. I didn't know any of that.
How much money? I know that people, you you work a little bit. You might not have made much money at that time to want to come here.
Yeah.
And so how did you finance yourself to get here?
Yeah, so, and the funny thing was, and my number, they're going to go crazy in the comment section because I had the most money I had ever had in my life at that time. And it's the most money I ever made. And I felt like I was on top of the world, and it was $5,000. You know what I mean? I had $5,000, and I had a
but $5,000 in 2000 and what?
2006.
2006.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's still big money. Not big like that, but in respective to Ghana, even now, $5,000.
Well, when I came to Ghana and I went to the ATM. And I pulled out the first money. I pulled out 800,000 CDs.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? That was the ATM limit.
So you were a millionaire here.
Exactly. So that was one of the things I loved. That when I came here, I was a millionaire.
Yeah.
And just that mindset, it was beautiful. Again, for me, the money was beautiful. Like the artwork on the actual money, seeing the money, different colors, different face, like everything about it was amazing. And then, at that time, I think that 800,000. It was probably like, about $80 or something. That was around the time they were getting ready to do the redistrict, one CD, whatever. So it was only about $80. But still, it was just a mindset thing. And it was beautiful back then. Yeah.
Nice one. So, when you got here, you were not broke like that. You still had money. You were millionaire. So now you are in Ghana.
Yeah.
So how did you transition your life in Ghana? You're in Ghana now. You didn't plan. Did you plan to stay for? How many months did you plan to stay for?
No, at that time, really what I was doing was I planned on coming here and staying 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. And then I was going to go do a little bit more traveling in Europe before circling back to Florida and going back to my cubicle. You know what I mean? So again, I was like, I've got 5,000, in my bank savings. I've got a job to come home to. There was a safety net. And so it was just a trip. The beginning, it was a trip. There was nothing about repatriating. There wasn't a plan. And so what happened when I got here, it was more, I was moved to this outcome or this result and to follow this kind of path. And that's a very important piece of the puzzle as well.
So, your history class focused more on Dogon, which Dogon, it's in Mali.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go to Mali and be with Dogon people?
Well,
and then you came to what informed that decision, even though you studied the history of Dogon, but you wanted to come to Ghana.
Yeah. Well, we've got to be real honest about information and about access.
Yes.
This is 2000. When we were planning this in maybe 2004, 2005. This is before Facebook. This is probably even before MySpace. This is, the internet age. It came on in the late 2000s, but again, access to information. So I had no exposure to Africa, to African culture. I had only what America teaches us in school, and that's very, very limited. So what had happened at the time was in our research, we had found a local architect who was working here by the name of Joe Osei-Ado. Yes, Uncle Joe, who was doing some amazing stuff with sustainable architecture, and he, he repatriated himself. At that time he was working in, I believe, California, LA, and he had moved back, set up a firm here. And so my friend, he was actually interning in that office. So when I came on vacation, my friend was actually interning, and so when he would go to work, sometimes I would go with him. And so then being in that environment, going from my cubicle to another design studio where we're focusing on local source materials. And again, at that time too, it was a very exciting time in Ghana. So the projects that they were doing, it was just too enticing. Again, for me, my purpose or my belief in life is that everybody's got to find their purpose. And once you find your purpose, it's your job to pursue that purpose.
So Joseph Osei-Ado, Ghanaian, doing some stuff over here. So then Ghana became, automatically your destination.
Yeah, the gateway. Again, that too. Ghana is marketed as the gateway to Africa. If we look at Ghana's history, how you kind of mentioned the year of return. they've done it before.
Yeah.
You know, they had the Joseph Project back in the 90s.
Okay.
You know, and so that was another time with, you know, you even look at the festival that happens over in Cape Coast, with the Panafest,
Panafest,
you know, that was born back then. And so again, we, you know, the diaspora and African Americans and others who are looking to reconnect with our roots, we've been searching.
Yeah.
And naturally, we've gravitated and come here. And then once we're here, the welcoming, I mean, we all know how welcoming Ghana is.
Yeah.
The hospitality and everything on that aspect. And so that's why I think Ghana has been at the forefront of that throughout its history.
Yeah. So even though the time and the age of 2006, when the internet and all that was not a space for information giving like that, Ghana was still out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you could ask few more people around in America, and you could see some Ghanaians, you could talk to them easily and ask them, oh, how is Ghana, or blah, 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 how is Africa, and makes it easy to come. So now you are in Ghana.
Yeah.
Young man, you know,
Yeah.
architecture, you know, and you are in Ghana now with all your ideas and everything. Boom, you're at the airport.
Yeah.
How was your first experience? How was everything?
Well,
how many years now? How many years?
Yeah, I mean, it's going on 18 years, I think.
18
you know,
years.
Yeah, you know, I think I'm in my 18th year, you know, so
let's
depending
go,
on how you look at it.
let's go 18 years back.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Again,
You know, my experience was very unique because my friend was here and we're into motorcycles and bikes.
Okay.
You know, I had sent, I think at the time it was like $600 for a motorcycle.
Okay.
So when I got off the plane, we went to Abelimpe where we were staying and we put our luggage down and we got on motorcycles.
Oh.
And so now my access, like how I could move around, it was just so different. So how I saw Ghana on the ground, you know, it was just wide open. And on a motorcycle, that's one of the things that, you know, one of the biggest essence that I think you have to get comfortable with here is, you know, the difference in time. And a lot of it is with just like traffic and stuff. You can only do one thing. You can't go to Kasua and Tema and Abri all in the same moment.
No, you can't.
You know, and so that now confines you to, you know, maybe doing one thing a day and really planning. But again, on two wheels, you really could, you know, do that. And so, I had an amazing experience, you know, and we would go all around. At that time, the office was in Kaneshi.
What image was in your head about Africa before you came?
Yeah, again.
Because you didn't have much information.
Yeah.
So you probably have some preconceived ideas and images in your head about Africa. And then you come and then, you know, so...
You know, again, and this is the part where, you know, if we're honest and if we really look at it, I had the image that was given to me, that was portrayed to me on TV, that was fed to me through the school system. You know, even me growing up as I am, you know, it's very black and white. You know what I mean? So again, if I met you there, I may not know you're Ghanaian, I just know you're black. You know what I mean? And I'm what I am. I'm black. You know what I mean? But again, there's so many varying layers. So again, it wasn't until college at FAMU really even, you know, and that was FAMU was really my first adult decision. You know, prior towards that, I had went to all kind of white schools or mixed schools. And so when I got to choose college, I said, no, I want to go to a place that's for us, you know, and that's what an HBCU is. And at the time, you know, I was also in the band. I played the saxophone, and so I wanted to march in their band. Their band is...
You used to play saxophone?
You know, you call me up on stage, you know, so I mean, you know, and FAMU has the best band in the land, you know, and so that's what drove me to FAMU. That's what exposed me to the culture and then allowed me to be opened up to it. But again, when I came here, I had just the negative perception. I didn't have any positive images. And so I kind of really left it kind of blank. I didn't know what to expect.
You know what to expect.
And so I just came. And I came with an open mind and an open heart. And I just came to experience. That's another one of my things, that we're shaped from experience. So if you just take the time to experience, you know, and again, you can't really do that on a vacation. If it's 2 weeks, no, you're going to come and go to all the hot spots and leave. But once you go from like 3 weeks to a month to, you know, that's where you can start to really You know, you're no longer staying in hotels, you're probably staying with somebody.
Yeah.
And the hospitality of doing everything for you is kind of worn off, so it's kind of now like real life.
Yeah.
And you can see things. And
Yeah.
again, we were staying in Abelembe, which was a great community. You know, we had the motorcycles, we were getting around.
Yeah.
At that time, I was building a network with the people he was working with in the office. And what I realized was, even still then, I wasn't working. You know, I was still just, this all happened very fast. I was on vacation.
You were in your 6 weeks mode.
Yeah, I was on my 6 weeks mode.
So what changed the 6 weeks now?
4 weeks. 4 weeks went by,
Uh-huh.
and then it's like the end is coming.
Yeah.
You know, the end is near.
Yeah.
You know, I've got to go back. I've got to go, and I'm like, I don't go back. I go forward in life. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I've been there all my life. I've lived my entire life in America, born and raised. It's all I've known in Florida. You know what I mean? I traveled a little bit to maybe New York, Oregon, and I think I went to Puerto Rico once in the Bahamas. But outside of that, there's such a big world.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to really, you know, I wanted to find myself and see what was out there for me. And the thing about Ghana, and it's for us, you have to realize our perspective.
Okay.
You know, we come back, and the number one thing for me was, everywhere you look around, it's majority black and brown faces.
Yes.
Everywhere. So again, if you have any insecurities or anything, you're worried about this, you're worried, like, listen, it's going to be a black or brown person who's going to save your life, who's going to this, who's going to that. It's everything.
Yeah.
And so there's a comfort. There's a guard. Like, there's a weight that we carry on how we have to move in America, you know, in certain environments. And so when that weight is lifted off, I always kind of use the analogy, it's like no gravity. So now you're kind of floating in this new, like, this is not normal.
This is not normal.
This is not normal where
your new normal.
Yeah, there's no glass ceiling, like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And me being into architecture and looking at Ghana, and again, my focus is rural development. So I'm looking at, I love it where there's mountains and it's green and it's lush. Like, that's how God made it. And so now, if I did the job well, you'll see it in my work. If I didn't, it's still just bush. You know, whereas the city, it's very urban, all cities, you know. And so again, my focus was always, and so we would ride these bikes and go on motorcycle journeys outside, and that's where I, you know.
So when the 4 weeks came, 2 weeks was gonna go there, you become 6 weeks, and then you went back, or you stayed on. You stayed on.
I stayed on. You know, I stayed on, and I sent everybody a Dear John letter. And I told them that this is what I need to pursue. That's something that's touched my heart, and this is a path that I can't turn my back on. I can't walk away and then say, oh, I woulda, shoulda, coulda. Or I'm gonna wait until later, because nobody knows tomorrow. And again, you know, it was a privilege at the time, and it was divine because of how it, you know, I didn't know we were gonna fall in with, you know, Constructs LLC. That was the architecture firm that we were working with. I didn't know all these other things were gonna happen. And so my friend, you know, he had to go back. You know, he had to go back because again, you know, I was fortunate to where I had college scholarships. So I didn't run into debt in college. And that was the first big trap. So again, my friend, he had to go back and start making money to pay back. The thousands of dollars in loans, tens of thousands in loans. Whereas I had scholarship. They were essentially paying me to go to school. And so then when I got out working, I was able to work, you know, save that money. And so I had that freedom because again, in the beginning, I wasn't working here. You know, I was barely even interning. You know what I mean? I was just around. I was a tourist at that time. You know, and so what I would do is I would, you know, here, and then I would go visit Togo, and I would come back, and I would go to Nigeria, then I would come back because again, you know, I don't have a residence permit. I'm not living here yet. It took time before I got my residence permit, then got a work permit, and now I have citizenship. You know, all that took time. But in the beginning, you know, I was, you know, an entrepreneur. You know, I had always had another business on the side. Again, one of the things, and you can't have one means of income. You've got to have numerous streams of income. So
let's go back to your friend leaving. And you being here, and now, I mean, your friend leaving will always gonna leave a gap.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, your bonding and your style of movement will change. Now, Were you still living in Abelin Bay, or did you move out? How did you progressively move forward from one place to another? You know, without your friend, working with the company, and now thinking, okay, I need to get fully on the ground now. How do you navigate your way? You move from Abelin Bay.
Well, I mean, I stayed in Abilene Bay for some time, because we were being hosted there with the family, and so I was there for some time. But eventually, I moved out, and I've lived all over. I moved to Wireless and La at that time.
Okay, Labadi.
Yeah, I was living there, and I've been everywhere in the crop. But again, what happened was, in about, let's say, fast forward now, maybe about 18 months into it. I'm in Accra, living the Accra life.
Okay, about
most of it is it's all still being funded by me going to the ATM.
Yes.
Pulling, because I'm not.
$5,000.
Yes.
It's still rolling.
Still rolling. I had $5,000. I always laugh about this. I had $5,000 in a new MacBook Pro that I had financed.
Yeah.
And I've always, like I said, what I was getting at before is I had a graphic design business.
Just hang on.
Yeah.
Please, if you are watching us, okay, and you think that you have $5,000 now, so you want to move to Ghana,
Don't do it.
Please, no, let me tell you something. Please don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay? So if you've caught us in the middle of the conversation,
Yeah.
go back from the beginning and where we are now. Do not come here
Yeah.
with only $5,000.
Yeah.
You wouldn't last long. You will go back again. Okay. We'll get back there. He will tell you how much you need before you can get here now. Okay.
Let me even put a quick little disclaimer in there. Again, my path is I'm not recommending my path or my journey. My way is not the way to do it.
Yeah.
You can learn from my story, and then ultimately, because I've been here so long, I've seen so many other people do it.
Yeah.
I've assisted them with it. I've built homes for them, and so I've been a part of the process, and I understand now, some of the pitfalls that you will face, and so I can help you navigate that. But again, yes, no, don't. This is one of the challenges that we have. We come here and we have on rose-colored glasses. We see things in a certain way, and then again, it's because we're leaving behind something. Yeah. And nobody knows what we're leaving behind. Even individually, when we come here and we try to come together, I don't know what your story was.
Yeah.
Are you running to or running away? And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So the number one thing, just on that, plan. Okay. Have a plan, ask questions, do your research, come and visit, touch and feel, go back, plan more. And then, but don't just it's not advisable. Of course you can survive. Of course you can thrive. But if you have time, plan. So let's go, yeah?
Yes. So you'll be 18 months down the drain now. Your 6 weeks is gone. You are in 18 months. You've been to, a few places. Did you, some point in time within that 18 months, starting to think about your roots of where your family might have come from, or the whole slavery story? Did any story, did you start thinking like,
Yeah. And yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So again, us leaving America, what we're leaving with, I'm mixed, so I'm truly American in every sense, in that, my father's Black American, from the South. And my mother's, a combination of Mexican American and European American.
Yeah.
And they all grew up and were raised in Florida, South Florida, Miami, Florida. Mm-hmm. Then they moved to Orlando. And then again, you have to realize there's so much with me being mixed, identity issues. Okay. Again, I didn't know I was Black until I was 14. You know what I mean? Like in America, I didn't even know I was Black. I was just Brandon. Yes. It wasn't until the world really showed me, oh no. So again, I was, we would move in such a way. We lived in such neighborhoods. I told you I went to the white schools or the mixed schools. Yeah. So again, it wasn't until society in certain ways, in certain instances, and certain interactions, and I remember in elementary school, they did like redistricting, and there was a big fuss that they were going to bring the Black kids in. And I'm like, what's the big deal? And then the kids came and I saw them all and I'm like, yes. And they're like, this was the issue. So was I the issue all along because I was here? And so that was always with us. And so then coming here, coming here, when I fell in here, I was 24 at that time. I was 24 years old. Yeah. And there were quite a few African Americans, elders I would call them, who had already moved here, who had already been living here.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things, and this is another thing, like me, my 18 years, that one, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if it's 18 months, 18 years. I'm here.
Yeah.
So that's what I always tell, like, you're here.
Yeah.
So even if somebody just shows up, you're here. I had a day one. You've got to have a day one. So some of those elders, they were here like 14 years, 15 years. Oh, you're just on vacation. You're just here. And I'm like, but you had a day one.
Yeah.
So this was my day one.
Everybody had a day one.
You know, so it was in meeting people. And at that time, the 18 months I went out there, and at the time it was, you know, it was like a tour circuit. So they took us out there to see what was going on. And what Fiancra Fiancra was born out of, let me not say born, because again, the beginning, there's been so many people that have been working towards this, like for us to be able to come back, for us to be able to connect.
Yeah.
Like right now, it's even me, I'm in a privileged position to be doing what I'm doing because of people before us.
Yes.
You know, so there were so many people here, but what the Fiancra Project was it was an attempt at developing a community. You know, and it was located up in...
For the diaspora community.
Yes,
right?
yes. You know, and that was supposed to be, you know, traditionally, you know, we understand the role locally that local communities played in all of this. And so what happened back in that, I brought it up before, that 1994, that Panifest, they did an atonement ceremony.
In Fiancra?
No. This was bigger than Fiancra.
Okay, cool.
This was a number of chiefs, Ghanaian chiefs, Nigerian chiefs, a number of people all came together from the south to the north. And they did a traditional atonement for their role in the transatlantic slave trade.
Okay.
You know, and that involved everything. You know, and a part of that is not just I'm sorry, but it's a way forward.
Okay.
You know, okay. You know, and that is land and opportunity.
Okay.
You know, and that's what the Fiancra Project was a first initial pilot, strived at creating a place where we could land and acclimate.
I guess you are taking the story to where I asked you within the 18 months.
Yeah.
Did you started, you know, trying to find your roots
and
all that?
Absolutely.
So you are linking it to Fiancra.
Yes, because I moved there.
To come back to the answer. Right?
Yes, because I moved there. So essentially what happened...
After 18 months in Accra, you moved to Fiancra.
Yes, and that was the thing. And this is no shade to Accra. I love Accra. I've lived in Accra a long time. I moved back to Accra. Like I said, I've lived in a number of areas. But I didn't move to Ghana for Accra.
Yes.
That wasn't, you know, and what I would see on these trips when I would go outside of Accra was just beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah.
So again, I've always lived around freshwater lakes. So when I went out to Akosombo and I crossed the Adome Bridge and I saw the river and the mountains and the lakes, I loved that area. Yeah. You know, and then that too is where that project was. So I moved out into the bush. And at that time it was bush.
Okay, so let's go to the Fiancra roots story now.
Yeah, so and I won't get too much into Fiancra because it's its own thing and it deserves its own time and attention. Yeah. But that's where, yes, I moved to Fiancra, and that was the first attempt for me involving in community development. Okay. You know, my goal previously was I just wanted to build houses because the scale of a house, skyscrapers are too big for me. Like I want something that is like, I believe I can design a house that will make your marriage survive. You know what I mean? Like it'll be a happy home. You know, and so that's why it's an intimate experience on a house. And so what I saw at Fiancra the first day I went out, or rather the second day, I went on the tour and then I got their contact and I was like, I'm going to come back out here and see you all. Because I'm like, well, where's your architect? Where's your this? Where's your that? And they were, you know, this is what we have. This is what we've been striving to do. And I'm like, oh. So I went back out on my own trip. And when I went there, bulldozers were working. And again, it's the same question. Where's your this? Where's your that? I'm like, then I'm here. You know, I want to see if I can help, if I can, you know, play a role in that. And so I moved out to the Akosombo area and lived there for some years, you know, and I would come back and forth to Accra. At that time, I was still affiliated with the office, so I would come in and still do stuff. But again, so much of our work can be done remotely. I had a graphic design business that would enable me to still have an income coming in, so I could do these exploratory projects that were not, they weren't cash-rich projects.
Okay.
It was like volunteer work.
Yeah,
So I had to fund
yeah.
my volunteer work
Mhm.
because I knew that ultimately it was going to lead to a better thing.
How were you eating? You did all the story from the day one to Fiamanka.
Well, I mean, right now you see me and I'm married and I'm eating good and that's why I'm below. But those days I probably came to Ghana looking like this, and within the first 3 months,
You went skinny.
yes, I'm
Yes.
telling you, one,
Yeah.
walking, then two, the
sun.
food the sun, it just
The
melts it
sunshine,
off.
It melts it off.
Then the food you are eating doesn't have all the chemicals
Yes.
and all of that stuff. So again, I used to tell people like, man, no, I've been here this long. I look better. I look more healthier. I'm happier. Like, you want me to do what? Go back? Like, I don't, like, how do you not, why are you not coming forward? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was eating good. And
So the food was, you didn't struggle with the food much. Or you did a bit, and
I wouldn't call it a struggle. I mean, it's like, it's anything in life. You find what you like,
Yeah.
and what you don't like, you don't eat. But you got to try.
Yeah.
You don't even know what you don't like. So again, the food is a beautiful thing because, and we'll probably get roasted in the comments, some of the stuff when you're cooking it, the smells and the this, you'll be like, no. But when that food comes and you dip, boom. I tell you. So what I learned about that from a designer point of view is that I used to design all these open kitchens,
Yeah.
open layout, open plan.
Okay.
So I realized, no, in this context, you really need to have a separate kitchen.
Okay.
So it's really, these experiences impacted my design styles.
Okay.
And so that's what was happening. Again, another one of the bigger challenges for me was, everywhere there's bars. That's a challenge. Design-wise, you want big windows and big this, but you have to think about security. And then again, if you're in a remote area, you really need to think about these things.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I came with an open mind and an open heart, and I experienced.
Your experience.
And then I let those experiences shape me.
So what's your favorite food in Ghana?
Right now, well, it's gone. In the beginning, for the first, let's say, 12, 15 years, it was, boy. So it's changed. It's changed over the years.
But what was it in the past 15 years? What was it?
You want me to tell them?
Yeah.
Akpele and Bobby Tarde.
Akpele and Bobby Tarde. Akpele and Bobby Tarde.
Schoolboy.
Folks from Volta region, okay? Folks from Volta region. That is your favorite.
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest dish over there.
Yeah.
Akpele and Bobby Tarde. I love it as well.
Now, the only thing that overtook right now is my wife's Eba and okra soup. That's now overtook the Akpele.
Eba and okra soup.
Yeah, and she cooks the best okra soup, in my opinion. I don't like it too slimy, so it's just...
All right.
So that's my favorite now, but prior to that,
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just like me and you have the same favorite.
Yeah, I love Akpele.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Nice one. Nice one. So, you're on the grounds now, you're doing everything, you're cool with your friends in America, you are communicating, you're telling them
No. This is still, we're not communicating. There's no Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
This is MySpace.
Yes, I remember.
Gmail is not even out yet. No, we're not. And that was the issue. That was one of the unforeseen challenges that I think a lot of diasporans face. Because again, it's not just about my African American experience, it's about a larger population of people. But again, when we come back, we're coming. And when we come back, when we fall in, are there like-minded people?
Yeah.
What I used to always use this analogy, we'll meet in the airport.
Yeah.
You're going there and I'm coming here, and we're both looking at each other like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why am I coming to Ghana? And I'm like, why are you going there?
Yeah.
And then, so again, that was one of the challenges in the beginning, was the support system.
Yeah.
I was 24.
Yeah.
I didn't know any other 24-year-olds that had this similar experience.
Yeah.
I would only meet them if they were on vacation or a school trip,
Yeah.
and they would come and go,
Yeah.
And then at the time, for our population, for our community, it was really retirees
Yes.
who were here because they could afford. They could take their pension,
Yeah.
and that would stretch.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us, we're not getting out of America with a whole lot of money.
Yeah. And was there any point in time that you felt like, oh, gee, God, I wish I was in America? Like something pissed you off, or and you just couldn't hold it. It's like cultural frustration or something.
No, not for me, but that's because I'm too stubborn. So again, what happened was once I realized now this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So my brain is running 1,000 miles a minute, and I'm thinking about, because I see all this opportunity that I can tap into.
Yeah.
The frustration came in when I realized that my clock that I was operating on is not the same clock as everybody else.
GMT Ghana time.
Exactly. It's not the same. And I can't change that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I would be naive to think if I could.
The discipline was different.
Yeah. So my motto was patience and perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
And patience, like, if I'm telling you to be patient, like, then evidently you're not patient. Like, you need to have more of it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no end to patience. And if you ever find the end to patience, then you just need to persevere, because this is what you said you were going to do.
Okay.
And that was my thing. So once I kind of set my focuses on what I was doing, this is what I was doing. I knew how long it was going to take, a lifetime. That's how long I have.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward. In any of those challenges, I'm trying to find the solution.
Yeah.
Because again, ultimately, what you have to do, whatever it is, your interests, you have to make your life sustainable.
Yeah.
You have to find a way to provide for yourself. You have to find a way to go from struggling, from surviving to thriving.
Yeah.
And that's your responsibility.
Yes.
And ultimately you do want to find support systems that can help you, but it falls on you.
How long did it take you before you heard about Cape Coast Castle or Elmina Castle?
I mean, I went very early because I was on vacation, so they took us. You know what I mean? I went within the first 2-3 weeks.
Oh, first 2-3 weeks?
Yeah. The other beauty of it, again, our story is the reason why my friend was in Ghana, African-American, interning. His mother had moved back to Ghana to go to the university to get a PhD.
Okay.
So she, again, because of certain things, their lives passed, them being conscious, them being aware,
Right.
She wanted to come back to Legon, an African-American woman.
Okay.
Come back to Legon to get a university, and that opened the door. So again, me right now, I'm so many people lift me up. And that's the thing in our community. Like, it can be a little bit. It's not like they're there supporting me always, but they're stepping stones that allow us to do. And now with me building and stuff, they're going to come back one day, because again, I'm here forever.
Okay.
I've got children here now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So within the first 2-3 weeks is when you went there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you think that also had something, impacted your mind?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again,
Okay.
I've traced, not the genetic method. I mean, we've done it, but again, prior towards that, we tried to do our family tree, and it goes back to a point where
It finished.
it finishes.
Yeah.
But you can't. That's not the end. That's not even the beginning. There's so much more.
Yeah.
So again, for me now, seeing all of that, experiencing that, going to the castle, experiencing all of this, it changes you. And these are all the reasons that it was the fuel that allowed me to say, no, I'm going to course correct.
Yeah.
I'm going to go down this path authentically in this environment, in our environment. And what I will become of myself, whatever will become of myself, will be determined upon me, my environment, my circumstances.
So you think every African American would have to visit Africa or Ghana once in their lifetime?
Oh, I absolutely believe it should be like a pilgrimage for
It
us.
should be like a privilege.
Absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Now, do I think everybody will? No, because there's so much diversity in the world that there's not everything of one thing. So again, the people who it touches, you've got to do it. You know what I mean? Like if you have any inclination for it, you've got to do it. It's not that expensive if you plan, it's not for everybody to move here. It's not for everybody to this, but yes, definitely to visit and experience, because you've got to see it.
Yeah.
You've got to see it. The other big thing, again, the reality, when I came here, my background in architecture, and I saw everything.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm like, whoa, hold on.
Yes.
Like, this doesn't add up to the perception I had. And again, my perception, if I really search back, I'm like, there was nothing. it was just empty. It was like an empty void. So I really had no perception other than the infomercials, you know. And so when I came here, I'm like, no, it's just like here. You know what I mean? Now, maybe it's not as developed in every area, but no. And the other big thing about it, the most important thing is that everything you see is owned. Like the financing is not like the cars on the road. People own those cars.
Yes, they own it themselves.
The homes, the thing, people always talk about, oh, there's so many uncompleted homes, but they own it.
They own it.
They're not paying a mortgage. That's their brick and mortar, and it's safe and secure.
They are working on it slowly.
Exactly. So
that's like you paying your mortgage slowly.
And they give you 30 years in America.
Yeah.
And I believe most people finish their homes here faster than 30 years.
You know this.
And they own it. So again, all those cars on the road, they're owned. So a lot of that stuff that's real shiny about America, that's credit and financing. Once you turn 18, they give it to you. Like, here, go spend this, and hopefully we'll hook you in a trap. But again, here, go spend it, you know. And so
when did your money finish in Ghana?
Whew. Yeah.
When did it finish? Because the 5,000 is still rolling.
Well,
and it's finishing.
I mean, technically, I'll say it never finished because I'm still here. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, I mean, it's.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When did you realize that the ATM is not really producing it like that anymore?
Well, I mean, it took years before I became sustainable. You know, but in the beginning, I was getting that. I had an online business where I was doing website design, graphic design, photography. And the large part of it was photography, so that part was hard because I was gone, but the websites I could still do. And so because the power of the dollar and stuff like that, I could design 1 or 2 websites.
For people.
And have enough. I wasn't living an extravagant life. I was living out in a rural area. You know, I had a motorcycle.
I saw you with
you know what I mean? So again, you see, you know, so it's not that I was living an extravagant life. You know what I mean? At that time, I wasn't living in a craw. I didn't have to come up with the years worth of rent.
So you managed to transition slowly without not having that big financial, breakdown where it feels like your world is coming to an end because you were working your way out with other skills that you have.
And that's the that's the important piece of the puzzle. Is that one, you need to have a tangible skill. You need to bring something. There needs to be something that you can do. That, I mean, whatever it is that you can do and generate. Because if you can't do that, then it means you can only go and work. And
where there's no many places that
to work.
And
again, you know, there's a proverb. Poverty is madness. You know, the things that you'll have to do, it's madness. You know, and so that's the piece of the puzzle to where I say that if you're planning towards this, then develop a plan, a sustainable plan that can take all of this to account. Because again, at some point, if it's 5,000, if it's 10,000, if it's 100,000, it's gonna finish.
It will.
No matter what. And what do you do? Not even at that point, because at that point it's too late. What were you doing to make sure that you were okay? And it can't be a running back. What I always say with people and their projects and their ideas, you have to spark your own kind of sustainability. You've got to invest enough money to get your idea to be able to take care of itself. And then once it takes care of itself, it can start giving back to you, but you also have to kind of reacclimate your own reality. Like, I wasn't spending that much money.
So, you know, if you come and you want to spend a lot too, you are allowed to spend, but the money will finish quick.
Exactly.
Let's come to the things you build.
Absolutely.
You know, let's come to the architecture. What were you building before, and what do you build now?
So in the beginning, I wasn't a builder, and I wouldn't. You know, again, I had graduated college. I'm a man of my word. If I say this is what I am,
I'm saying that here.
I know. But I want to kind of get into because this is really kind of shows my niche. But what would happen is I would design your home, and then you would say, Brandon, who's going to build this? And some of the stuff I was trying to get them to do Adobe blocks. I was trying to get them to do these different things. And most people are like, no, we're going to just build concrete blocks. My builder is telling me we can do this. And so it was almost like I was setting people up for disappointment because they would get the design, they would get the drawings, but they don't want drawings. They want a house. And so that's what required me to say, okay, I've got to start building.
Okay.
You know, and that's where I fell into. I started building homes.
Okay.
And my niche essentially was building homes for other repatriates
Okay.
because we shared common similarities.
Yes.
Then again, at that time, I was in a diaspora community.
Mhm.
So the idea was they're coming home with their pensions, their savings.
Mhm.
If I can be a vessel to help them get their home,
Yeah.
and then in that process, I get to build and design,
Yeah.
like that's mutually beneficial.
Okay.
And so I was building for diasporans.
So the stuff you used to build before, because when I know you, and that was the first time that I heard you talking about the earth bar.
Yeah, yeah,
But then somewhere along the line, I met you again, and you were in a hole,
yeah, yeah,
and
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
had some pictures
Yeah.
of these dome
Yeah.
houses.
yeah,
And so as we speak now,
yeah,
I don't know what you built.
yeah,
And I still want to go back to migrating from Earthbag to where you are
yeah.
and the reasons behind it and how comfortable you are with it and how Ghanaians are also perceiving it.
Yeah. Well, my thing there is I don't have one specific niche or style.
Okay.
It's kind of like with food. Do you eat the
Yeah.
same food every day?
Yeah.
No. So
Yeah.
what I've been striving to do is introduce a number of different solutions. Now,
Okay.
at the heart of it, I'm an Adobe builder.
But Adobe Go.
Yes. The
Okay.
key is to build with our common latrite.
Okay.
That's the magic ingredient.
Okay.
That red clay soil, you know it.
I
You know
know
what I mean? Anybody, if you see that red clay soil,
Yeah.
that's the magic ingredient.
Yeah.
Now the question is, how can you utilize it?
Mhm.
So the earth bag technique, that is a do-it-yourself approach. So at that time, I was focused on community development, rural development. I wanted do-it-yourself approaches that I could teach people on the rural level in the villages on how they could build their homes better than the Atapami or the Wattle and Dab. Because again, by ramming it,
Mhm.
you get all the benefits of rammed earth, whereas the local way is just hand compacted.
Yes.
And so over time it cracks. But when you ram it, it doesn't crack. And so that's how the earth bag building came about.
Okay.
Another technique that has always been near to me was these domes that you're talking about.
Yes.
And again, the dome, the initial dome, it's a dome house. So it's all round, there's no roofing sheets. It's just a round, like ball almost, like a
Yes,
dome. And you
I
go
see.
inside,
Yeah.
and it really changes how you look at space because all of our lives, we've lived in boxes.
Okay.
This is a box right here.
So go back to college again.
Yeah,
Your inspiration you had from the Dogon people
yeah,
was still in your head.
absolutely.
And that was
Absolutely.
that's what brought
Absolutely.
the final design to the dome thing.
Absolutely. Again, when you trace the Dogon, what I loved about them was their architecture and how they built inside the cliffs and the mountains and how they did it in such a way with stone and mud. And so for me as a designer, I said, okay, what I'm trying to add to is modern African architecture.
Okay.
So what is African architecture? We got to look at our material palette. Our material palette is stone,
Yes.
is adobe soil,
Yeah.
is wood.
Yeah.
And so I need to be designing homes of this palette
Yeah.
so that way I'm using locally sourced materials. And then what I want to show people is that it's the modern design that makes it like, wow.
Okay.
But if this wall is concrete or adobe, you may never know,
Yeah.
But again, how it performs is so different.
Okay.
And that was my thing is I really want to come up with solutions that is like a reflection of us.
Okay.
Like if I ask you right now, what is Ghanaian architecture?
Yeah.
What is your answer? You know what I mean? What is African architecture?
Mhm.
You're going to point me to some traditional buildings, some
Yeah.
traditional styles. You're going to tell me to go see this.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like one thing here, another thing there. But again, our architecture here, because of the modern influence of the world,
Mhm.
like we're building our interpretation of the West,
Yeah.
instead of like what is ours. And
Yeah.
that's really what I wanted to contribute to.
Okay.
And the dome was, again, an iconic,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so what we were doing at that time was, what the dome is, it's a sustainable way to build housing, again, for the village level.
Yes.
My goal is to redefine the village. I want to build the village in such a way that it won't have the stigma that the village has.
Yeah. You want to give it a value.
Exactly.
Upgrade it.
Yes, the issue with urbanization is everybody's leaving rural areas for opportunity.
Yeah.
But if we build up those rural areas,
Yes.
they don't need to leave.
Yeah. And
You know.
Africa has a lot of rural areas.
Absolutely. the majority of it is green.
Yeah.
You know, and so that was my focus. And so I introduced this technique of building, which was they're called monolithic domes. Now, again, it was backed by a company in the States, so it was tried and tested technique. So I imported their equipment, and essentially what it allowed us to do is, and I would turn it upside down, the calabash here, but you build a house like the shape of a calabash, and you go inside, and that's your either house or office or studio. The ones I was building were about 20 feet round. It's like the size of a chalet. And so I was marketing them for either chalets for guest houses. You know, there's hospitality. We've got a big hospitality industry. And so again, somebody would say, hey, I want to go stay at the domes. So again, that now makes it marketable for the hospitality industry. Then at the same time, in the village, the dome could be built as a safe module. You know, there's so many things that happen with thatched roofs catching on fire, trees and stuff. Like the dome is, I don't want to call it indestructible, but it almost is. A tree could fall on top and nothing's going to happen. And so what I was striving to do at that time was train individuals in the rural areas on how to build these domes. Then they could build their own homes, and then they could also market to the hospitality industry.
Where are you based now? Because you used to live in Go.
Yeah, so
you used to live in there?
Well, no, I'm not. So again, you know, for the majority of, let's say the last 15 years, I was a vagabond builder. Wherever your project was,
you go there.
I would go there.
So
I would move there.
You build Ghana-wide.
Yeah. Well, and
that's what I'm saying, because
I wanted to, but then what I realized was distance-wise. So I've been focused on the eastern region, greater Accra region, and then I did COVID time. I was up in the Volta region for about a year, almost 2 years.
All right.
In a wonderful little town where Mount Fajato is. And it was a great time to be there. And then again, it was a great time because the project I was working on was a much bigger project.
Is it the town Yatiwote?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you were part of the Habisha Foundation.
Well, I helped them. I assisted them in the development of that project. I was the designer and the initial builder for that project. So I went in and set out the whole project and did so much wonderful things there. And I'll share some footage. We just had a wonderful event up there, and the place is beautiful.
I've seen it.
You've seen it? Oh,
I've seen the videos. And you know, I mean, the audience can watch and see. It's a wonderful thing. So, you think the way forward for Africa in terms of housing is sustainability?
Absolutely. Again, what people don't realize is the life cycle cost of your house. Typically, what happens is because we're building with cash here, it's all cash. There's no financing. There's maybe a small portion of people who can even have access to that financing, but because it's cash, most people are looking for, I hate to say it like this, but the cheapest way to build. You know, and our conventional approaches have really become conventional because, let me call them the most financially economic. I don't want to say that they're cheap, but they're financially economic. You know, sandcrete, solid block construction. You know, everybody builds that way. And a number of other techniques. Because again, how you build, the design, the shape, the materiality, it all dictates the cost. So you can get a dirt cheap house, or you can get a multi-million-dollar mansion, all depending on your taste and your budget. But again, the maintenance cost over time is what a lot of people don't think about. How often do you have to paint the house? Do you have to this? The materials you invested in. I remember the first house I built, we didn't buy the best roof. And that roof, they said it will last like 15 years. And it only lasted like 8 years. And so the guy calls me and he's like, Brandon, I need to do another roof. You don't want to do that. You don't want to have to change your roof. So invest in a higher quality material so that way you have the 30-year roof. So again, how you're spending, how you're investing, you want to make good, smart decisions so that your home is sustainable. So that it's not a burden on you over time.
So I mean, you know, people are watching us now. They might be moving to Ghana as well, and then they are thinking of having a nice room and stuff like that. So at this particular point in time, what you do now, you can build homes for people.
Well, really, what I'm doing now is Well, it's a number of things. Again, I'm only one person, and there's hundreds, thousands of us coming here, and a home takes, and I'm gonna move to your area. So again, it's not realistic to say that I can do everything. So the number one thing I assist people with is design consultations.
Okay.
Design development. Because again, for me, every time spent designing is going to save you money and time in the future.
Okay.
So if you're saying, hey, I want to move to Ghana someday, start planning early. So that if I would have known I was moving here, I would have saved a whole lot more than $5,000.
Yeah.
If I knew I was going to really stay, I might have even went back and really re-upped and then came back. So again, if you know this is what you want to do and you have time, plan. And then you can execute your plan. So I can assist you with that plan.
Okay.
And if it meets my criteria and proximity-wise, yes, there's a potential I could build it for you.
Okay.
Or I could point you in the right direction.
Yeah,
but the number one first step.
Specifically, you are not building concrete jungles for.
No, I don't build with concrete. I mean, well, okay.
So you are doing more sustainable stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So we need to get that one clear. So that
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't
know that when they go to Brandon, this is
Yeah.
what they're getting.
Well, and that's the reality. So again, that's the beauty of it. The people who come to me, they've seen my work and they want that or better. And that's kind of been my thing. My thing has always been from each step, I'm trying to get better.
Yeah.
And the beginning, the first house, if you look at it, is very, very simple.
Yeah.
But I had no power tools. It was way out in the middle of nowhere. I did it with a motorcycle. I didn't have no trucks, no nothing.
Yeah.
And so I needed something that I could do.
Yeah, but that is the story for Africa as well,
Yes.
because you were learning as you go.
Yes.
And you are in a different world and
Yes.
different terrain and different everything. So you needed that experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
We're shaped by experience.
Yeah,
and that's why it's very, very important to
Yeah.
surround yourself with good people, to try to find a network.
Yeah.
And so I would definitely love to assist people now. What I'm trying to do mostly is it's really an information game.
Yeah.
If you know what it takes, what it costs, and how to do it, then when you do it, you're going to be more informed.
Yeah.
And the challenges. Again, a lot of people say, oh, it's hard, or oh, it's challenging. Every step of the way, you're going to meet challenges. That's
Yeah.
what this is. And it's about how can you overcome those challenges?
Mhm.
What can you do so that challenge that was once hard is now easy?
Yeah.
And that's what it's information and access and knowing the people and the techniques. And that's what I'm trying to do now. I've been sharing a lot more on YouTube, on my channel. And I still do consultations. I have some private projects that are working as well right now. And we're moving forward, you know.
What's your new channel?
Eco Talk with Brandon. So if
Eco Talk with Brandon.
Yep, you can find me there.
Yeah.
If you search Brandon Rogers Ghana, you'll see,
Yeah.
I've been here, I've been posting
Yeah.
throughout all the years. You'll see my digital footprint.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely making it a point now to
Did
kind
your
of show-
parents ever made it here to come and
Not
visit
yet.
you or anything?
Not yet.
Oh God.
I know. I
Yeah.
know.
Any-
I know.
any-
This one,
any-
they're gonna watch this. So this is y'all's moment. Like again,
Zo TV talking points. Do not change the dial. Stay tuned.